Welcome. I am Collins Trott, Child Development Faculty on the Wallace Community College, Dothan campus. In this episode, we are going to be learning about intellectual development in the first year. As you may recall, intellectual development is how and what people learn and how they express what they know through language. Intellectual development is also called cognitive development. During the baby's first year, intellectual development happens as quickly as physical development. The learning process begins right after birth. In fact, the brain and some of the senses are active before birth. Learning, however, involves more than physical growth and development. Many researchers in child development believe babies want to learn. Each month, babies exert more and more effort to explore their worlds. Because learning begins so early, parents are a child's first teacher. So join me, Miss Trott, as we learn all about intellectual development in the first year. Intellectual development includes how babies learn, what they learn, and how they communicate. Brain development and wiring supports learning and affects the sensory, motor, thinking, and memory centers of the brain. Quality experience aid these fast-paced wiring. Newborns come into the world using all of their sense organs, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin, which are rapidly maturing. Environmental stimuli like light, sound, heat, and textures are agents that affect the sensory organs, causing a person to react. Early reactions are mainly reflexive. Brain research has noted much activity in the vision and motor centers of the baby's brain during the first year. As motor skills develop, infants are able to move towards many sights, sounds, and other stimuli. While taking in sensory and motor experiences, the brain is wiring the thinking and memory centers. The vision centers of the brain allows babies to process the sight of their world into information. The brain makes some connections from the sensory receptors before birth, but wiring increases dramatically after birth. Vision dominates how babies interpret their world in early life. As reflexes wane, during infancy, much activity occurs in the motor center of the baby's brain. Fast brain wiring in the motor centers often starts around 2 months of age. At this time, infants begin the multi-year process of learning voluntary gross motor movements. Wiring for fine motor movements begins around 2 or 3 months of age, when infants make their first attempts to grasp objects. During infancy, babies depend on their motor skills as they react to environmental stimuli. These motor experiences within their environment enable infants to learn about important ideas such as space, weight, and depth. Thinking requires more than the physical ability of the sensory organs to receive input from stimuli. Thinking also requires the ability to interpret sensory information the brain receives. A sensory association area of the brain inputs the basic sensory information received, such as shape, color, pitch, and location, and process it into recognizable objects such as dog, trees, and faces. Recognizing a parent takes thousands of neurons firing in the brain. Repeat experiences help infants make these sensory associations. Just as babies need good nutrition for physical growth, they also need quality experiences for intellectual development. Interesting things to see, hear, and touch are food for thought because the world is new to babies. Common objects and experiences in their environment provide quality learning opportunities. Thinking and learning require memory, and memory abilities begin very early in life. There are 2 main categories of memory. Explicit memory is the conscious, intentional recalling of experiences and facts, or the knowing what memory. Implicit memory is the unconscious awareness of past experiences to perform tasks, or the knowing how memory. Perceptual learning, which is the process of making sense out of a sensory stimuli, is highly important in infancy. Perceptual learning happens because the sense organs mature, the brain develops, and preferences for certain stimuli change. To learn, infants must choose from among stimuli. Researchers believe babies have inborn abilities to choose the stimuli that will most help them learn. Perception involves organizing information that comes through the senses, how fast the brain organizes information, and the way a person reacts to the different sensory experiences. Cognition develops as babies piece together and give meaning to their perceptions. Cognition is the act or process of knowing or understanding. Cognition gives meaning to perceptions. The baby's brain begins to piece together perceptions to form a picture in the mind. Two highly recognized cognitive psychologists who describe how children learn are Jean Piaget and Lev Vygotsky. Both men agreed that children construct their knowledge from their experiences. They believe learning attempts must be respected by allowing the child to take the lead. Piaget believed that children learn when newborn reflexes give way to voluntary movement and sensory perceptions. He thought children learn through their environment by making their own discoveries. He felt that the role of the adult was to provide a stimulating environment. Piaget's research led him to believe that children go through 4 stages of cognitive development. His theory is known as the cognitive developmental theory. Because babies explore with their senses and motor actions, Piaget called the first stage of cognitive development the sensory motor stage. This stage begins at birth, and most children complete it in the first 2 years. During this stage, children use their senses and motor skills to learn and communicate. Like Piaget, Vygotsky believed children's thinking changes as they develop. Although he knew children learn some skills through their own discoveries, he felt children learned mainly through interactions with others within their culture. Vygotsky believed culture and social environments, such as family, school, and community, in which a child is reared, determine how a child will think and the skills he or she will develop. His theory is known as a social-cultural theory of development. Vygotsky's social-cultural theory emphasizes how more knowledgeable adults and even older children guide younger children's discoveries. He believed teaching occurs through modeling, instructing, and working together on tasks or projects. The varying levels of instructional support given to help children learn a new concept or skill is called scaffolding. To be effective as a teacher, which is anyone who helps a child learn, Vygotsky thought it was most important to provide instructional supports at the right moments. This is called the Zone of Proximal Development, or ZPD. During infancy, parents can best scaffold through emotional communication. In the very early months, parents try to interpret their baby's cries or sucking behaviors. Around 4 months of age, infants' signals become clearer as they use body language. Infants learn a great deal in their first year. How babies learn is related to what babies learn. As motor skills and the brain continue to develop, babies are better able to make sense of their surroundings. Babies develop many ideas about their environment during infancy. They learn about objects and people in their environments and relationships between objects and themselves. Babies also learn about language and communication. At birth, the main sound newborns make is crying. By the end of the first year, infants recognize many words, and some can even say a few words. Babies also know the tones of a language and may recognize the meaning of body language, such as head shaking or smiling. Some babies, if taught, can also learn sign language. See, newborns can learn to remember an object for a short time. They use a different sucking technique on a breast versus the pacifier and become aware of the space around them and imitate the actions of another person, such as facial expressions and hand gestures, differentiate between speech and other sounds, and recognize parents' voices. Also, they're able to exercise their reflexes. As babies explore their worlds, they learn many concepts. A concept is an idea formed by combining what is known about a person, object, place, quality, or event. Concepts change throughout a person's life as they learn more. Concepts are different for each person because no two people have exactly the same experiences. Also, many concepts involve emotions. These concepts help children make sense of their world and further their intellectual development. Some major perceptual concepts children learn in the first year are sameness, object, spatial, number sense, physical, and relationship concepts. Language is a complex system of sounds, words, grammar, letters, or symbols, and social knowledge. To a great extent, language is a unique human endeavor. Although animals communicate, they cannot master the complex language systems of people. Language learning begins early and involves major brain wiring changes, both making new connections and pruning. Social interactions involving language are crucial to language development. When babies are born, they are communicating through the sounds they make. Others learn to understand their language. There are stages in communication, including crying and cooing, babbling, first words, and increased passive and active vocabulary. As you can see, babies learn many new concepts and abilities during infancy. Milestones are simply a guide because infants will develop at their own rate. Also, many factors will influence infants' rate of intellectual development. Understanding intellectual milestones, however, can help parents and caregivers plan appropriate activities to help meet the infant's intellectual needs. Just as parents need to meet babies' physical needs, they also need to meet their intellectual needs. Babies need an environment that offers them chances to learn. Adults can provide learning experiences for babies soon after birth. In fact, the sooner adults provide activities, the more babies want to learn. There are many activities that can help babies improve their sensory, motor, memory, language, and problem-solving skills. These activities help form the baby's enriched environment. How babies learn is very different from how older children learn. Babies have a baby agenda that is not culture specific, but is universal to all babies due to genetic brain wiring. This means that learning certain concepts and skills happen around the same time for most babies, regardless of culture. Baby agenda has been the same for all periods of time and in all cultures. According to Ronald Lally, a noted psychologist, the main aspects of a baby's agenda include developing motor skills, learning language, understanding how objects work, seeking significant relationships for nurture, protection, and love, learning ways to interact with others. Babies need activities that stimulate all of the senses. A skillful parent or teacher uses activities to meet intellectual needs during infancy. Most of the stimulation for newborns comes from being near parents and other caregivers. Newborns are fascinated at seeing faces, hearing sounds, and feeling warm and loved when cuddled. Warm and expressive talk stimulates newborns. Newborns love to hear singing and other soothing sounds, such as wind chimes, music boxes, or other soft music. Sensory stimulation involves using the senses to learn about the environment. According to Piaget, babies use their senses as a major way of learning. Babies use their senses to explore objects and to discover how objects operate. Movement is important for babies. As babies explore, motor activities help their coordination and intellectual development. Coordination is the working together of muscles to form movements such as walking. Babies' explicit and implicit memories are rapidly developing. Even a newborn recognizes his or her mother's voice. Because babies learn in a holistic way, they make connections with objects in their environment and larger concepts. Babies will often problem solve during play, but this problem solving usually goes unnoticed by adults. For language development, social interactions become more important for infants during the second half of the first year. Babies learn language by hearing people talk. Adults can talk about the foods, toys, people, and routines that are part of the baby's world. Exact words are not as important to the baby as hearing language. Reading to infants daily exposes babies to new words and ideas. Even babies who cannot comprehend the words benefit from having books magazines, and newspapers read to them. Now let's review what we've learned. Intellectual development includes how babies learn, what they learn, and how they communicate. Brain development and wiring supports learning and affects the sensory motor, thinking, and memory centers of the brain. Quality experiences aid this fast-paced wiring. Organizing sensory stimuli or perceptual learning is a major step in infant learning. Cognition develops as babies piece together and give meaning to their perceptions. Piaget believed that children learn when newborns' reflexes give way to voluntary movement and sensory perceptions. He found that children go through substages before they discover new ways to solve problems. Vygotsky saw children's development determined by culture and adult guidance. Infants learn a great deal in their first year. Their perceptual concepts include object concepts, spatial concept, number sense, and physical concepts. They also develop relationship concepts. Language development involves major brain wiring changes, both making new connections and pruning. And social interactions involving language are crucial to language development. The stages in language development include crying, cooing, babbling, and first words. To develop intellectually, children need an enriched environment. But the best learning agenda for infants is the baby's agenda, not the adult's agenda. Babies need activities that stimulate all of the senses. For language development to take place, it is important to talk to children and encourage them to make sounds and words. That wraps us up for this episode. You can learn more about this topic by reviewing the resources posted in your course. As always, if you have any questions, please contact your instructor. Thanks for joining me, Miss Trott, as we learned all about intellectual development in the first year. See you next time.